Hello, my name is Anna Cox, and I'll be talking to you today about beliefs, science, and an episode called Mummies of the Tarim Basin. What we think, how we act, and what we consider moral is all based on our beliefs. But what are beliefs? Merriam-Webster defines a belief as a feeling of being sure that someone or something exists or that something is true. At first, this might seem fairly specific, but looking at this picture, all of these images represent beliefs. Some of them are beliefs about a higher power, some are about a nation or a group of people, some are about how things should be, and some are about how things are right now. Beliefs can be about all of these things and even more. The things that we believe are important to who we are and who we will allow ourselves to become. Obviously, people believe many different things about ourselves and about our world. Some of these things we call religious beliefs, or ideals. This graphic shows several different ways that people say that they believe something. Some beliefs we consider to be facts. People have thought at some length about what should be considered fact and what should not. And today, people have very different answers to that question. One of the primary ways that something becomes thought of as a fact by the majority of people, though, is by using the scientific method to question it. Once we discover something using the scientific method, we can extrapolate about what that means for our lives in a larger context. Most people believe things which they personally experience through sight, hearing, smell, taste, or touch. The scientific method is based on this premise of observation. The steps of the scientific method are shown here. Ask a question, do background research, construct a hypothesis, test your hypothesis by doing an experiment, analyze your data and draw a conclusion, and finally, report your results. Part of reporting your results is sharing those results with others. That way people can use your experiment as part of their research. Because the goal of science is more about discovering facts than about individual accomplishment, it is important to explain your results clearly and make them available to anyone who might need them. Science has many applications, but the easiest place to start is in facts that are now widely accepted. As this magazine cover suggests, many of them have had a significant impact on our day-to-day lives. These include healing properties of certain chemical compounds, Newton's laws of gravity, thermodynamics, etc., a better understanding of the world's place and shape, the discovery and use of electricity, and more recently, the discovery and increasing understanding of DNA. For instance, it would be impossible to build safe airplanes without an understanding, and indeed belief, that gravity is the same throughout the world. Our lives would be very different at the moment if we did not know about electricity or did not know how to use it. Ovens, refrigerators, air conditioning, and automobiles all require us to have some understanding of thermodynamics. Many other discoveries have changed our lives in subtler but equally persistent ways. Science changes the way that we think about ourselves and our world. Speaking of scientific discoveries changing the way that we think about ourselves, one way that they do this is by changing how we think about our ancestors. In some cultures, ancestors are afforded more respect than in others, but in most cultures, family and ancestors are very closely linked to a person's sense of self. Therefore, it is understandable that concepts like evolution and genetics might seriously change the way that we think about ourselves and about those around us. This is one of the things that makes historical and archaeological applications of science especially intriguing to me. It has the potential to revolutionize the way that we think about ourselves and our role in the world. I am currently researching the Tarim Basin Mummies. There is some question about whether they should properly be called mummies because they were naturally dried out by the air rather than preserved in special bindings. Several things have caught scientists' eyes in regards to these bodies, and people are still in the process of trying to understand exactly who these people were and why they were in the Tarim Basin at this time. In this picture, you can see a reconstruction of what this woman might have looked like before she died. Understanding this might help us understand which people today are most closely related to these individuals. As I mentioned before, scientists have been researching several aspects of the bodies found in the Tarim Basin tombs. This research centers primarily around the age of the bodies and what modern people group or race they are most similar to. In order to determine the age of the bodies, the primary method of experimentation that the scientists use is called carbon dating or radiocarbon dating. In this method, they detect the amount of carbon-14 that is present in the substance and how much would have been there when the bodies were buried. Because we know the rate at which carbon-14 decays, they are able to determine a rough date around which the tomb was populated and sealed. There are two scientific methods which are primarily used to gather information on who might be related to these people. One method is by extracting remaining DNA and testing it to find similarities with modern people groups. Another method is by measuring aspects of the bodies, such as the skulls, and comparing the dimensions to people today. This practice of studying the shape of skulls is called craniometry and is a branch of osteometry, which includes any kind of measuring bones. Both experiments involving DNA testing and craniometry have suggested that these people are closely related to current Western Europeans. We have briefly discussed the things that scientific accomplishments have already changed about our lives. What might come of discoveries involving the Tarim Basin tombs? They probably won't help us fly or cook food, but might we learn something new about ourselves? I think so. Already there seems to be evidence of cultural practices concerning gender in their culture. Have they made mistakes that we can learn from? Have they done things better than we do? And if so, can we learn from these people? The hope is that whoever they were, from a time that we can hardly even imagine, we will be able to learn something from them that will help us be better at our lives, here and today.